Let's talk about the matchup itself, and this is even tricky because we don't know, like, if it is a wet track or a snowy field, obviously all of this changes. But McNuggets has put together 3 different camps for the Browns this year. He's put together a camp of guys that have overperformed. They have been better than all of us thought they would be.
It's a short list.
It's a very short list. I've got 2 guys on my list.
I have 5. Okay. We'll talk about it in a second.
I've got a high bar. All right. Then you've got a camp, and this was, I imagine, would be a pretty large camp of guys that have been who we thought they were. And then you've got a camp of guys who just have not played up to what our expectations have been.
That will be a long list.
Is that the biggest one? I would think, McNuggets, that would be your biggest list.
The underperformers is the biggest list.
Good. I would hope so. Now, this list is compiled by you only.
This was me, Anthony, and Earl kind of talking. And to give you a little insight on this, I think it was Monday we were talking about just guys just disappointing in the team. How we thought, even though we all thought they'd go 7-8, just individuals not living up to the standards. And I was like, you know what?
8-9.
I bet you if you look at the entirety of the roster, there's only a few guys who have really overachieved from what we expected. So we went through the top 30 guys who play in the Browns and split them into categories, and we're like, yeah, you know what? We all agreed on a couple.
Good.
Or probably 20, and there's about 8 or 9 that we're going to discuss
I'm going through it in my mind, and I got 5 in my mind.
So let's start with the overachievers. These are the guys who we are very proud of this year.
I'm curious to see if there's any overlap here.
Very
if you guys disagree, we could go through that. Tell me why you disagree. And if someone's missing, we could go through that. But we'll get to the main guys.
All right.
Let's take 95, Steve. This is expectation versus reality. The overachievers this year: Jacoby Brissett.
Yep. He's on
Ethan
my list.
Pocic.
Yep.
Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Yep.
Martin Emerson Jr.
Yep.
And David Njoku.
Oh, wow. I've got Nick Chubb on my list.
We'll get to Chubb in a sec.
Okay.
We'll get to Chubb in a sec. He falls into I think he met expectations. He's been very good, but we expected him to be very good. I'm not sure he's been better than we thought, but we'll get to that list in a sec.
It is a high bar, like as it is for Myles Garrett.
Right.
But I to say that he's performed at par when I don't think he's leading the league in rushing anymore, is he?
He's 3rd in rushing, 1st in touchdowns. And Chubb is on the list of guys we're going to talk about of which category they fit in.
Bull, what do you think about Chubb?
My expectations couldn't have been any higher for Chubb, so even I don't look at it as a downgrade to say, oh, he's just lived up to expectations.
Right.
But I mean, he's not. He would have to be having like the greatest running back season in the history of football for me to say he's overachieving, because I expected him to be great. And he's been great.
And he has been. You guys agree with that?
Yeah.
I could be talked out of that. I mean, that's Bull makes a great point.
What you mean?
So that he's just met expectations. You know when you get the grade card, before they started handing letter grades, you either exceeded expectations, you met expectations, or you performed below expectations.
Well,
it just seems like whenever I would get the meets expectations, I'm like, that's basic.
Yeah.
I don't want to be basic.
Yeah.
And I think when we put the check next to meets expectations, that makes it almost sound like he's basic, but Bull's right. Our expectations for him couldn't have been any higher.
I mean, when you're talking about high jumpers, the bar for Jacoby Brissett was at about 2.5 feet.
Yes.
And the bar for Nick Chubb was at about 11 feet,
yeah, you're
8
right.
inches.
Yeah, you're right.
And he's still clearing the bar.
Well, here's the thing. So when you talk about Nick Chubb, if he's already we've already discussed ad nauseum his imaginary pitch count. If you can't do.
I heard that, Bull.
You can't do what you don't do. Who decides whether he gets the ball or not?
Yeah.
So if you telling me Nick Chubb was on pace to get 2,000 yards at one point in time, and then all of a sudden halfway through the season, maybe either because I'll give you, we were out of it by 10 points.
Sure.
We had to throw the football, or maybe it wasn't effective as much as you thought it would be. The bottom line is, I think a lot of times when it comes to offensive production, especially when it comes to receivers and running backs, there's 2 things that play into factor. What play did they call? And are you being targeted or used?
Right.
So you can never go above expectations unless the thought process is, I'm going to feature this individual.
He's not the featured player in this offense.
He's not.
He's just not. The ball is in Brissett's hand way more times than it is and so by that measure, I think you're right. It's sad. I hate to say that it's basic, but he's met my expectations. I had higher expectations for him, but I think if you want to look at anybody for him not overperforming, it would be the play caller. You got to put the ball in his hands.
I think he's the featured player in the the quarterback's always going to have the ball in his hands. But I would argue that Nick Chubb is the featured player.
So here's how I define feature.
Yes.
When the ball is in your hands and the play outcome is determined by you alone.
Yeah.
And that it's no comparison. It's been Brissett. Just compare his attempts to, because that's how many times he's determining the outcome of the play. If he's throwing the football, he has more to do with the outcome of that play, certainly than Nick Chubb. And when Nick Chubb has the ball in his hands, he can determine the outcome of that play more than Jacoby Brissett. So as much as I'd like to agree with you and say that he is the featured player in this offense, the numbers just show that he's not.
I don't know, Bull. I
who
loved
is-
your visceral groan.
Who would be the featured player on the Giants?
Well, I don't watch the Giants every snap, Bull, so I'm not going to make that assessment. But I would think, I would think it would be Barkley, but I don't know how many carries he's had compared to how many throws.
I have the answer for you right now.
Danny's had. What's the number?
Daniel Jones
has
attempted
40 more
200
throws.
Yeah.
40 more throws than Barkley's attempted runs.
Okay.
40 more.
What is the number for Brissett to Chubb?
But
That
based on
answer for
your,
you guys
I didn't
right
look
now,
at it
too.
yet, but
No, hold on.
based on your
It's
definition,
130.
Okay, here we go. The numbers don't lie. Danny Dimes has 40 more throws than Barkley has carries. Brissett has 130 more throws than Chubb has carries. It's out of whack.
That's a lot of throws.
It's just out of whack.
Did you say 130, Mike?
Yeah, he has 290 passing attempts to 160 rushing attempts.
Now that's.
But Kareem
tons.
Hunt
I think-
also has 83
I think
rushing
Bull,
attempts.
you're stunned by that. I think Jason, you're stunned by that.
but guys,
That's out of
based on
whack.
your definition, Jay, based on your definition, Nick Chubb couldn't possibly have 290 passing attempts.
I'm not
rushing
suggesting he
attempts.
should. What I'm suggesting is
Yeah.
Brissett should not have 290.
E-
Passing attempts.
Especially
But
if you look at the caliber
but
of
if you
quarterback, right?
We're a run
Guys,
team, Bull.
if you combine the rushing totals of Hunt, you see the Giants don't have a Kareem Hunt. They have no backup, right? And even with that,
Well, Barkley doesn't get all the carries, though.
He gets most of them.
He does, but there are
Almost
other
all
guys
of
in that offense that get carries.
We got 2 more minutes on
Kareem
this, then
Hunt-
we have to get to the other two categories.
Kareem
We're
Hunt
not gonna
has
turn into
83 carries.
Okay.
83 carries.
Okay.
What's the next highest total of running back on
I don't
the
have it.
Giants?
You tell me. I don't have it.
I'll pull it up right now,
My
Bull.
guess is it's no more than 30. So that's a big difference.
29.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's it. So they're second. So if you combine the two, Barkley and Matt Breida, wherever it is, and Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, then they're getting Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are getting more carries.
This might be the best demonstration numbers-wise that proves the point that I've been making all year. If you do combine the 2 carries of the Giants running backs, they actually have more running attempts between the 2 of them than
No, they don't.
close.
It's close. It's close.
It's almost
It's still
50-50,
more
Bull.
passing, but it's very close.
And you can add Chubb's carries.
It's not close at all. It's about a third. What are you talking about, Mike?
198 plus 29 is 227, which is 10 fewer attempts than Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
That's close.
Real close.
Oh, I thought you meant compared to Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt.
No. No, I'm just talking about, and so, again, it's just when you look at what you have, and you can't change that at this point. This team was constructed to be a running team. So why aren't we? Because that's the way we were built.
And I can look
They
at
are.
and besides this, I can look at an eye test. When
This is
you
the last point, G, and then we're moving on to the rest of the
Let's move on
overachievers,
because we've
underachievers.
argued about this nonsense so many times already.
Cooper Kupp, he's a featured player. You know that, right? Derrick Henry, he's a featured player. You just know that by watching him.
Right.
Tyreek Hill, featured player. You just know by watching him. Travis Kelce. Like, these guys get the ball and a lot.
Nick Chubb is the featured player of the Browns.
Despite the
I
fact
don't
that
know.
the quarterback has 130 more throws than Chubb has carries.
Again, so how would Tyreek Hill be the featured player on the Chiefs? He doesn't have as many receptions as you're just making it up as you go along, guys.
No, we're not. No, we're
it's
not.
obvious that Nick Chubb is the feature player on the Browns. Every quarterback in the NFL has more
Bull.
passing attempts than the top running back, except for Ryan Tannehill.
Well,
he missed some games.
You can claim that all you want. If your quarterback has 130 more attempts in 9 games, 9 games.
All right, we'll just leave it there.
Yeah, you have to because the numbers just disprove your point. What's
So-
number 2?
So,
it
by the
doesn't,
way, I
but-
put him at Met.
Then
He met
Saquon
expectations.
Barkley's not the
right, so
Barkley's not the featured player on the Giants. Then, so that's fine.
No,
we have
he is.
underachievers to get to. We have
Okay, let's get to the underachievers.
rest of the segments here. So Chubb was in the middle. We'll get to the rest of the middle guys in a sec. These are the players that we determine have clearly underachieved expectations this year.
Second
Some big
biggest
names.
group, right?
Second big. This is the biggest group, more than the middles.
Oh.
Guys like these are underachievers.
Oh, underachievers.
Underachievers.
Okay.
Guys like Anthony Schwartz, Davian Clowney, Greg Newsome, Jacob Phillips, Jordan Elliott, Taven Bryan, John Johnson, J.O.K., Jedrick Wills, David Bell, Tommy Togiai. The list goes on and on. Those are the biggest names.
We don't have the names on a graphic.
Do you have a list? Do you have a list by any
I
chance?
can send you guys the list. There was too many names to read on one graphic, so
How disappointing
it was tough.
I
I'll
don't
go
think
through.
most of those guys to me are not underachievers because I didn't think most of those guys would do anything this year.
Go through them one by one. Throw them out. Throw the name out, and
we'll say yes or no.
Yeah.
Because then we got it to the middle group, which is where
each
the
just say
discussion
under
goes.
or met.
Anthony Schwartz.
Under.
Under. That was a
Matt.
pretty low bar.
And I had no expectations for him, but he's been that awful.
Met.
Met expectations.
Because I didn't think he was going to be
zero
serviceable at all.
Yeah.
I didn't think he was going to touch the
When
field.
they put him on the roster, I automatically said, well, they must think they can get something out of him, and they haven't.
Okay.
I got to put him in under.
I agree.
Jadeveon Clowney.
Under.
Under.
Matt for me.
I'd say under.
Yeah.
Greg Newsome.
Under.
Under.
Way under.
Yeah. Way
Jacob
under.
Phillips.
I would say under.
Jacob Phillips shouldn't
tough.
be on the field.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
an under.
why is he out there?
Under.
Under.
Jordan Elliott.
Under.
Met. I knew he was trash to get.
I didn't have any expectations. I agree with G.
He
I had no
29%.
expectations.
I didn't see what they was talking about.
Taven Bryan.
Terrible. I met. If the Jacksonville Jaguars and your boy Urban Meyer get rid of you, you were terrible. That is not a pickup by any stretch of the imagination.
Taven Bryan shouldn't be on the list. He is a nothing player, and I don't know why anybody would have even considered discussing whether he had
an early
expectations.
free agent signing.
That's the Browns' fault.
John Johnson.
He's
Under.
way under.
Under the grave.
Hey.
Yeah.
J.O.K.
Under.
Under.
Jedrick Wills.
Under.
stadium.
Oh,
Under.
my God.
David Bell.
Met.
Under.
Because everybody kept telling me, hey, you know what? We drafted this guy high.
Man.
They love him in camp.
He
Met.
wasn't that high. He was a middle round pick.
But they was talking
Well, I
about
mean,
this
it was their
man.
se-
There
when
were
he was their second
expectations
pick,
for him,
there
though.
were expectations.
Yeah,
Remember
there
they
were
were-
expectations for him, and he's been on a milk carton.
He hasn't missed the ball all OTAs,
Yeah,
G.
I
Bush.
remember that.
Won't drop one.
Yeah.
I ain't seen him since.
Yeah.
Tommy Togiai.
Under.
Oh,
Yeah.
Matt, he wasn't
I
good
had
to
no
start with.
expectation for
He
him.
made no noise at Ohio State. At Ohio State, your numbers are automatically inflated. Remember, even when Vernon Golston was there, Vernon Golston looked like an animal. You're like, oh my, but he was terrible.
But even at Ohio State, he got the rub-off numbers.
Yeah, he got the numbers where he
Guys were paying attention to the real stars on that defense, and he was running
he
into
was
a
just,
couple.
hey, let me just go in here and get in the pile. He made his money one game against Penn State. That was it. I think he had like 2-3 sacks. But no, he was not good.
What else?
So we got the middle group now. We got the middle group. This is where, well, it's not middle. This is where we need your help determining which side they fit into.
So you weren't sure on these.
Well, you already got one guy in here, Dave, Mike, who you haven't mentioned that should not be in this group. He's way under. But go ahead.
Who?
We're going to see. We're going to see
Denzel
what.
Ward.
Well, Ward's in this. Ward's in this
Ward
group.
would be under for me.
Way under.
Okay,
is
so you
not
guys all
that
agree. We just didn't want to throw him in there because he got hurt.
He signed the biggest cornerback contract
I
in
agree.
the NFL.
Ward-
And he has
Ward
come
was
nowhere
in
near
there.
living up to that.
Who better, Ward or Sauce Gardner? Sauce!
Yeah, that's not even a thought.
Sauce!
Jeez.
All right, well, let's start with this one then. How about Myles Garrett? Has he overperformed, underperformed, or kind of met your
Under.
expectations?
I'd put him in under.
Under. I expected him to be an NFL Defensive Player of the Year candidate. He's not.
And I'm going to go with under.
Under.
Because there's sometimes where you just, like the
Don't see him.
game against the Dolphins, they threw the ball a decent amount. You got to get home on one of them. Even if you got to do your own thing. Like, I'm dropping in coverage this play. Sometimes you got to give yourself the Troy Polamalu playbook. By the way, he had no responsibilities. He just was running around.
Rover.
Like Rover doing his thing.
Find the ball.
Sometimes they not going to take you out. Just do your thing, bro. But I have to say under.
Yep.
Even if we all agree that the rest of the D-line hurts his chances to be overly productive, the fact is we all expected him to be very productive, and he hasn't been. We could talk about his PFF grades all we want. He hasn't produced as we all expected him to. He's got to be under.
Yeah, under.
Okay, that's fair. How about Amari Cooper?
Met.
I think Met, yeah, because we thought he was a home run guy or a two-catch-a-game guy, and that's who he's been. He's had some really big games, and he's had some games where you wonder if he's okay.
We'll see. This is why this is important. I'm going to steal this out of Jason's playbook. This is why we got to see these dudes with Watson. I don't know if he's met or under. I'm going to figure out these last 6 games, though, because that should not be that shouldn't be an issue. Whether or not you're going to be targeted, or if you're not getting, he's not making certain throws where he may feel he can't get it there, right?
Right.
Brissett, sometimes he's not going to throw it with anticipation. He's going to wait till you open to throw it. He does a good job at it, but the next level is when you get a quarterback that can do all those other things, and then I'll be able to see if Amari Cooper is one of them dudes that, okay, he'll be good, he'll be tight, or he's going to disappear every other game.
Right.
I would say Met. I would agree with the guys on this one.
Met? Fair.
I mean, he's been good, but he's not been great. And he is, 18th, I think, in receiving yards. And he's up there of guys that have good receiving yards, considering they don't have great quarterbacks. But he, as Jay said, he's right. He disappears some games. He's not consistent.
Yeah.
Okay. That's where I had him, too.
Hasn't been a bust, but
No, not at all.
No, definitely not.
He hasn't been a wow. This guy's given us more than we expected.
Jason, we're going to start with you on this next one. Kareem Hunt.
Under. Not all his own doing, but under.
Yeah. Underutilized.
I'll go with under, so we don't have to start the whole circular argument anymore.
Yeah, that's
so he's underutilized, and I think he's underperformed based on what he think he should be able to bring to the table. Because I think he would like to have more of an opportunity.
You know what's going to be gut-wrenching to me is if he goes to if he goes to Seattle or he goes to another team next year and becomes Kansas City Kareem again.
He's going to be good.
It's going to be maddening.
Because what will happen is there's a lot of times you don't see it until you get the guy in camp. Right. And what will happen is he'll get in camp, and he's going to turn it on because now he gets an opportunity to kind of prove, hey, y'all
and a new environment.
A new environment. And they're going to say, this guy, Kareem Hunt.
All that being said, I think the guy that could benefit the most from Deshaun Watson could end up being Kareem Hunt. I really want to see Kareem Hunt and Deshaun Watson on the field.
I kind of disagree with that, Jay.
Why? Look what he did with Mahomes as his quarterback.
I think they're going to throw the ball even more.
I
do
do
too. Less opportunities for Kareem Hunt to touch the ball.
I do too, but if he's in the game and he's running routes, I just think that Deshaun extending plays, buying time, looking for the open guy, I think Kareem could be the benefactor.
And I like it. I actually think this will happen too. I think we now have a quarterback that has enough talent and cachet to be able to be like, hey, I want to run this play and I want to throw the ball to him.
Yeah.
We've never had that before. Jacoby Brissett and Baker, they was like, this is a game plan, shut up, get over here, we're going to check it down, and we're not doing this, will be running. But now you got an opportunity. Well, guess what? He has a little more input because he can say, I can get that there. I think this will work. And if you haven't heard Deshaun Watson talk about the game of football, he has genius-level intellect when it comes to breaking the game down. Photographic memory, when he started talking about this is what we were looking at, it was a cover two, he dropped down. I thought I could get it in there. We were in a different – the way he talks about it is crazy. And I think he'll help get Stefanski to saying, okay, let's have a partnership rather than a dictatorship in what we should run because the talent dictates that.
That could be nice.
Okay. Mike, I would say Kareem Hunt has been a disappointment this year. We could debate whether he's been underutilized. I'd say he has been underutilized a little bit, not dramatically. I mean, he has over 100 touches. As a number 2 back, that's more than most number 2 backs get. But if you look at his production when he's had the opportunity, he hasn't been overly productive. He's had his worst season in terms of yards per attempt. He's had his worst season in terms of receiving yards per attempt, per reception. He hasn't played all that great when he's been out there. I mean, I agree that when he goes somewhere else, he's going to be better. And I don't know that we can get that sick about it because no matter how, no matter how much you wanted him to touch the ball, he was never going to touch it as much here playing with Nick Chubb. It would be silly for him to touch it as much here as if he goes and is the number 1 guy somewhere else. I don't know that he definitely will be. But if he is, he'll have more opportunity. But he hasn't been great when given the opportunity this year.
No. And when he leaves, I think the last chapter that will be written was his time here a success or a failure? if you had to be that black and white about it, I would say it was a failure because I had way more expectation. When they signed him, I thought this is one of the most dynamic offensive weapons in the NFL, and he has not been that here. So if you're just passing out pass or fail grades at the end of his tenure, I'm going to definitely say his time here was a fail.
Think about that. Think about this. This is devastating.
And OBJ's fail.
This hurts
Jarvis Landry,
this
fail.
hurts my heart to think about this. Because at the time, Jarvis was in his prime. You had Jarvis Landry. You had Odell Beckham Jr. You had Nick Chubb.
Fail.
You had Nick
Not
Chubb.
on Nick.
And then you have Kareem Hunt. And at the same time, they end up giving David Njoku, a deal. He was still on that roster.
Sure.
Look at all of that talent, and you can say which one of them really broke out and was like a top 3 statistical guy.
Chubb.
None of them.
I think Chubb.
And Chubb got there, but
I don't think the other, Landry never produced like he did in Miami. OBJ never produced like he did
that wasn't
in New
even
York.
close. That wasn't even close.
Kareem
I mean,
Hunt
20
never produced like
guys,
he did in Kansas City.
Jarvis Landry had more receiving yards in 2019 with the Browns than he has in any other year in his career.
His first couple of years here were very productive, and then they sort of went down.
What was the number when he
longer
came in?
here.
He was the first receiver to go over. Was it 1,200 in each of his first 4 seasons?
Yeah,
or something?
he had
came in with
he had
there
100
was a
some odd.
number-
It was catches.
Might have been catches, over
'Cause he
100
had
catches the first 4 seasons.
I'll look into it. We got 2 more on the list, though, before we get to our next thing. When you look at the offensive line, I think Pochus has exceeded expectations. Antonio and Teller have been solid, met expectations, and Conklin and Wills have been below. So when you look at the offensive line as a whole, as a unit through 9 games, overachieve, underachieve, or kind of where you expected?
I'd say they were expected because
Matt?
Posich is such
agree
a
with Jason.
big revelation and surprise. That
There's been a
offsets-
surprise and there's been a disappointment.
Yeah, and I know Wills gets hammered, and rightfully so. He's had some bad games, but overall, I still don't think he's terrible. I think he's average. I think he's an average left tackle, and you better get used to him because you don't have very many avenues to do any better than that.
But the problem with that, Jay, because I agree, I think he stands out as being terrible because of where we took him.
Right.
When you take a guy at the top of the draft, that's a position that you cement for 12 years and you don't think about it anymore.
Right.
It's hard to miss at that position
And
when
I
you
don't
take
think,
it that high.
I don't think he's a miss. I really don't think he's a miss.
But for where he was drafted, has he lived up to his expectations?
I think that's a big miss.
I think it's a huge miss.
I think because of where he's drafted. But look at the other guys who were drafted around him. They haven't been great either out of that draft. But when you take a guy where they took him, the fans' expectation is, well, we have another Joe Thomas now. And that's an unfair bar.
Well, yeah, I
to
wouldn't
put
even
on
compare
anyone.
to Joe Thomas. He's a
No.
once-in-a-generation player.
I watch offensive line play. I never thought under any specific circumstances was he Joe Thomas or ever would be.
No.
But that's the comparison coming off of
I never did. Just because I
no.
think we knew with Joe coming in, and we certainly knew after 2 or 3 seasons, this guy is the generational offensive lineman that every franchise would love to have.
Right.
Now, it would be highly unfair to have those expectations of Wills. But where Wills was taken in the draft,
You expect more out of him than
expect
what
him
you've
to
gotten.
be a Pro Bowl player, and he has not approached that level. And you expect him to be a guy that you never have to worry about.
So is that on him or is that on the scouting department for taking him there?
Well, I mean, I don't know because I'm not inside that. I don't know. I don't know if he's putting everything into this that he
Right,
should be.
right.
I have questions
And he's
about
had.
that.
I mean, he
has had some ankle injuries.
Absolutely, had a
and that
bad
will
injury
kill an
last-
offensive lineman.
Yeah.
If he has ankle injuries and he's not a really good bender of the knees and the joints, that's trouble. And then second of all, he played at Alabama and he played on the right side.
Yeah.
You can't just be flip. Like very rarely do you project a right tackle to move to the other side.
Right.
That doesn't happen. Third thing, he does not have the traditional body type of a tackle. You look at Joe Thomas, lean. He's even at 315. Joe was never a bigger guy. When you look at Jedrick Wills, his body type is more like a guard. Right. Now, for me, I look at him. There's 2 things that are disturbing. One is he gives up at the point of attack a whole lot. Like he turns around, they beat him, and he starts walking around. I've seen it countless times when you watch all 22. You're getting beat at the point of attack, and you don't continue to fight, move to look to block somebody. You're just standing up while your quarterback's getting smashed. And then another thing is the penalties. He has, and this is 3rd year, right?
Yeah.
the penalty, the holds, the grabs, the undisciplined hands. As a lineman, your hands are supposed to be inside the frame of your body. So if you do grab somebody, they don't see it. He does a lot of this. And he said, that's not really a hold. Anytime your hands get out the side of your shoulder, they're calling it every time. The refs come to the locker room and say, guys, every preseason, guys, this is what we calling this year. You big guys, this is what we doing. He knows that. Is he a bust? No, he's just happened to be average. That's it.
Yeah.
Not a bust, definitely a disappointment. I wonder if they'd consider moving him to right tackle next year and having James Hudson play left tackle. I can't remember if he played left tackle at Cincinnati or not.
I flippantly I flippantly said that a few weeks ago. I was talking to Zach Jackson about that and said maybe Hudson's the left tackle next year and Wills is on the right. I didn't really put a whole lot of thought into it. I feel like Wills is league average at left, and do you really want to make it? I mean, we have no idea if James Hudson can play left tackle or not. He's been great at right in the spots that he's been in, but do you want to create a hole that doesn't exist? I personally don't think left tackle is a hole. Maybe you guys disagree. It's not what it could be, but I don't see it as a hole in putting the quarterback.
No, that's
at risk.
fair. I don't think it's a hole either. I just had higher. I had a higher bar for him.
I'm not spending no resources to fill it. Like if you telling me defensive tackle or left tackle, oh well, he's fine. He's gonna have to learn on the fly. Right. But
yeah, let's fix the left tackle problem.
Here's what I'm worried about: if you end up extending him to a long-term contract, is that I think the only reason he's not a liability is because Joel Bitonio is so good at left guard that it makes up for some of his flaws. And Bitonio's getting up there. So if 2 years from now, 3 years from now, Bitonio's gone or not that good, and then you paid a lot of money to Wills, that could really hurt you. Because if all of a sudden now you have an average left guard, well, now more of his flaws are going to come out. And
I actually think that's where the bill's going to come due on the salary cap.
Yep.
Carrying $15 million guards is a luxury that you can't necessarily afford when your quarterback's Deshaun Watson. You need it when your quarterback is Jacoby Brissett and Baker Mayfield. I don't know that you can do that. I don't know that you can invest $30 million in guards when you're paying your quarterback what you're paying.
Especially that right now, what we're seeing, when you run the ball that much, you're seeing two things. Either your running back breaks down or your offensive line breaks down. That's the consequences of hitting people every play. Teller is in the process of breaking down. We see it in front of him. He's lucky enough he just got to his big contract.
Right.
I don't know about that. He's had one injury.
I'll tell you, when you're a big dude and you have any injuries to your lower extremities and you're using that to fire off the ball, drive people, plant, it's different. It's just different down there. And he's already getting towards the age of 30. Guys don't, offensive line. And here's the thing. Linemen are playing more, right? Playing more longer years because they're in 2-point stance. They throw the ball a lot. The Browns are the opposite. Those guys from camp to camp they're piling, they're hitting, and these guys are the engine of what your team is. If there's one critique on that, the critique on a running team is people get old real quick. It's a lot of wear and tear on them, and they're just lucky right now. You look at Harris. That was a freak accident, but how often are you going to see a guard that's going to be able to run block, especially as violent as he is, stand the test of time? I think he's in the process of breaking down, and that's a big thing for linemen.
That may be the replacement right there for Bitonio or Teller is Nick Harris.
Yeah.
Yep.
If Posich can stick at center.
You said that. Yeah, I like that.
We got one last player. This guy's been up and down all year. G. Bush coming into the season said he could be the next Ed Reed. Tyvis said he has no idea what he's doing in the goal line at times.
Jesus.
So Grant Delpit, where does he fall to you guys?
Under the stadium next to John
My
Johnson.
Lord, just him and his boy. They're the Red Ranger and the Green Ranger. These dudes, y'all guys, boy, I had so much eyes because I watched him at LSU. He was different. I don't know if it's the Achilles injury, but I don't see the ball skills. I don't see that. He looked like he got shot out of a cannon. You see those safeties flash. Boom. It's just like, okay, well, he's here in the area. I just don't see it. They missed assignments. I don't know what he is. Is it the defensive? Is it what they calling him? They're not playing him right? I don't know. I just don't know.
Below.
Yeah.
Bull?
Well below.
For Delpit?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's been. I didn't have high expectations for him, but at least I had some expectation for him. I think he's been a huge disappointment.
Huge.
When you see the plays like what Tyvis showed us against the Jets, where Tyvis said they teach you 101, put your heels on the goal line and let the route take you to the end zone, and at the snap, he backs up 6 yards into the end zone.
Crazy.
That makes me question his football IQ.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no other explanation for that other than football IQ.
So here's our final tally, guys.
You never mentioned Greedy Williams.
He didn't play enough to even make the list.
Incomplete.
Yeah, incomplete. Our final tally of the top 30 guys, we had 5 overachievers, 6 guys who met expectations, and 19 underachievers.
And that equals 3 and 9.
And that equals
Easy.
3 and 6.
Or 3 and 6, I mean.
You're projecting.